Welcome to the class in continuation with the measurement of national income, expenditure method, the third method that we were doing. And in this, we're going to do the precautions right now. So just take a hurried look. Let's just go through this. So what are the precautions in expenditure method? So first and foremost, we must properly identify expenditure on intermediate goods and services. So intermediate expenditure is already a part of final expenditure. So including intermediate expenditure will mean double counting of expenditures. So what will happen? It will lead to overestimation of national income. Therefore, proper identification of expenditures on intermediate products is essential, it's necessary. So the second one would be that transfer payments, be careful not to include expenditures on transfer payments. So a transfer payment is one against which no goods or service is provided in return. Some examples are like payment of gifts, donations, charities, scholarships, taxes, old age pensions, unemployment allowances. So irrespective of who makes it. So such an expenditure is not connected with any productive activity, so they make sure that you do not add it. They have to make sure that they don't just add it up. The next is like, for example, expenditure on second-hand goods should not be included because these goods were accounted when they were purchased. So the expenditure on these goods was accounted when they were purchased new. Including expenditure on second-hand goods would mean what? It would mean counting of the same expenditure twice. No fresh production takes place in such a case. However, if any commission or brokerage is paid to the intermediary or to the broker in such transactions, this will be treated as final expenditure because it is a payment for the service purchased. So he's done the service of making that available, so that has to be counted. Another thing is that we have to make sure that we do not include expenditure on financial assets. Expenditure on financial assets is in the form of expenditure on buying shares, debentures, bonds, government securities. So purchasing of financial assets is not the same as purchasing a good. It only leads to, and let me just repeat it, it only leads to transfer of money from one person or institution to another person or institution. Again, in this, if there's a broker involved, his service charge has to be taken into account because the service charge is paid in buying financial assets and it is treated as expenditure on buying those services. And again, we must include imputed expenditure on own account output. So there are examples of such expenditures, for example, self-consumed output by farmers. That means when a farmer keeps a part of his crop output for consumption by family, it must be counted as final consumption expenditure by the farmer. And even like owner-occupied houses, that means we are using self-consumed services of owner-occupied houses. We are not paying rent, but we can imagine the rent. Services got free from general government and private non-profit making institutions serving households are other examples which have to be considered. So there are certain things that one must be very careful. So certain precautions which have to be taken, and even when we are doing numericals, they are pushed into it just to see what is your understanding of the concept. So these are the precautions which have not to be taken, and after this I'm going to discuss one numerical each of the by value added method, by income method, and by expenditure method in the ensuing classes that we have.